Today we will be talking about menstruation, how it affects us, and how our team plans to help the environment through our project by tackling UN SDG goal number 12. We will be talking about SDG number 12, responsible consumption and production, the problems that we currently face, a possible solution, and a few calls to action. Everyone in this room must have had an experience of waking up in the morning and turning your TV or radio on and hear people talk about climate change. When you turn on your phone, news revolve around the carbon footprint or carbon tax. And on the way to school, there are ads on the train or on the buses about sustainability.
So the topic of sustainability has come a long way since late 1980s when the first sustainability report was made. However, at the same time, our lifestyle of endlessly exhausting our natural resources has come a long way too. One night, you're staying up late because of work or study. So you decided to skip the dishes and order McDonald's. From the way that your food is prepared, to the packagings it comes with, and the ecological footprint it takes for the driver to deliver the food, you're already making an impact on the environment. See, it is that easy to live a non-sustainable lifestyle. And it is usually the little things in life we don't think about much that have the greatest impact on the environment that we live in.
Now, on the bright side, the UN has given us 17 key guiding principles to live a more sustainable life, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Among the Sustainable Development Goals is goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. Now, this goal focuses on us as consumers and the producers of the products that we consume. I know you've all heard about how the industry giants or world leaders should step forward to create a better future for humankind. But today, let's forget about that for a minute and shift our focus on ourselves. We want to show you that as ordinary consumers, you have the choices, and these choices can steer how industries produce.
Statistics show that from 2000 to 2017, our material footprint per capita has almost doubled from 5 to 9 metric tons. The material footprint per capita is essentially the measure of the amount of resources attributed to the living demand of one average person. If we project how fast we're consuming our planet in about 30 years, we'll need 3 times the resources on Earth to sustain our current lifestyle.
According to the UN's report, we are polluting water faster than the nature can replenish it. And every year, households consume 29% of global energy. And foods produced annually are wasted. These statistics just show how much we hurt the environment every year, both as individuals and collectively. But surely there has to be a better way to do things without having such negative impacts to the environment, starting with being a responsible consumer.
As consumers, we have the power to dictate our needs and wants to the company which produce the goods that we consume on a daily basis. You as an individual also have the power to tell any industry to do better and to be better. The more we choose to live a sustainable lifestyle, more companies would start to shift towards our directions, because us as consumer, our choices affect the choices of producers too.
Now think about these well-known brands that you probably use or see every day. Let's start with Coca-Cola. In 1978, the company introduced the PET plastic bottles for its 2-liter Coke bottles. Only 4 decades later, it created 3 million tons of plastic packaging, and about 108 bottles were produced every year. But as the voice to call for sustainable choices gets louder, Coca-Cola shifted towards using up more plant-based materials for some portion of its packaging. H&M, a dominant brand in the fashion industry, started a clothing recycling program with the hopes of winning the public. The sad truth, however, is that only 0.1% of the clothes donated were actually reused. This is because majority of their clothes are made out of blend materials using cotton and fossil fuel byproducts, among other things, making it hard for these things to reuse. In the end, more than 11 billion kilograms of unwanted textiles ended up in the landfill in North America alone. However, if consumers like you and I demand for better and more responsible clothing options, the industries would have to respond to these demands.
As you can see, a lot of companies rely on how satisfied customers are about their products to increase their sales. Recently, more and more companies start to use recycled or reusable materials just to please customers. Although some still use these as buzzword to greenwash their non-sustainable business model, it is still reasonable to believe that if we show our objection enough towards the irresponsible way of production, big companies like Coca-Cola or H&M would eventually start being more responsible in the way they produce. Now moving towards a different industry, we want to talk about a topic, an area that is oftentimes overlooked. What comes in mind when you see the word period? Tampon, pads, the time of the month? There are only a few certain words that pops up related to period. The fact is, oftentimes the menstruation topic is so sensitive for some that there are things we don't really talk about, such as the waste problem associated with it.
Almost half of the world's population is female. And the fact is, menstruation is part of our lives for 38 years. And during that time, one woman will produce about 300 pounds of waste in pads, plugs, tampons, and applicators. Based on the 2019's population, this would equate to about 26 trillion pads in landfills. These pads typically consist of 90% plastic and 10% cotton, which also contains toxic chemicals. Not only that, the plastic used in these pads are incredibly hard to break down once thrown away, taking around 500 to 800 years to completely biodegrade.
This is not to mention that growing a single kilogram of cotton requires 10,000 liters of water, while on the other hand, industrial hemp has a water footprint that's 73% lower. So by using hemp over cotton in the production of sanitary pads, we can reduce our carbon footprint by 5,300 kilograms. At Hempact, our goal is to help tackle the waste problem associated with menstruation by using hemp stock materials that are traditionally thrown away. Because North American countries are largely responsible for the plastic burden of menstrual waste, we are solving a global problem by starting at our home, Alberta. Alberta is one of the largest hemp producers in Canada. As we all know, hemp is usually used for its seeds, so a significant amount of waste actually come from the unused hemp stock.
So our team took these into consideration, and since our research shows hemp fiber's versatility, its ability to be 3 times more absorbent than cotton, and the recognition of the traditional menstrual product's environmental impact, our hope is to create a sustainable disposable pad that will consist of absorbent hemp core and a biodegradable plastic layer on top and bottom, making it 80% hemp and 20% biodegradable plastic. These materials will allow us to provide an eco-friendly alternative menstrual pad with no toxic chemicals and one that biodegrades in just 6 months compared to 500 to 800 years for conventional pads. Hempact tackles UN SDG goal number 12 of responsible consumption and production with a product that uses waste in order to reduce waste. Through this project, we managed to harness a material that is traditionally thrown away, allowing us to cut down waste on 2 fronts, by using hemp stock material and by removing the waste that would have otherwise come from conventional pads.
But since our product is still under development, we want to show you guys some already available options in the market that help reduce menstrual waste. On the left, Tree Hugger cloth pads offer washable pads made out of cotton, bamboo, or synthetic material. They also contain a super absorbent material called Zorb. There are also eco-friendly pads, which are largely made out of plant-based material, although they're not fully compostable. Brands like Eco by Natty or Cara are still trying to reduce their carbon emission in the processes of production and waste handling. We have to clarify that we're in no form, way, or shape related to these brands. We just want to highlight that there are companies out there trying to be more sustainable. If you're interested in learning more about these, the alternative options of conventional pads, all these brands have the website where they list the specific material they use and how you should do with the waste.
So as mentioned previously, making clothes is a huge impact on the environment. The textile industry alone contributes about 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So we encourage you all to take actions, starting by upcycling your old clothes for new looks and sharing your creations on social media using the hashtag ActNow. This is an initiative by the United Nations. We also encourage you to always check the fabric materials before purchasing your clothes and take these into consideration. And say no to fast fashion models. Also, find ways to eat and consume food more sustainably. Cook up dishes that not are only good for you, but also good for the environment, reducing the meat and emphasizing on diverse vegetarian ingredients instead. And all in all, just try to be more sustainable in the way we live our lives on a daily basis. That concludes our talk. If you want to connect with us, those are the information. Our website is over there. If you want to have a chat, we'll be here as well today. Thank you.